In this video, I'm going to show you a super simple way to create a walking bass line on your guitar. Walking bass lines sound great on guitar because in addition to the bass itself, you can also add the chords of the progression. The resulting sound is like a whole rhythm section coming out of your guitar. Hi, I'm Simon Candy from Acoustic Guitar Lessons Online.net. And if there's one thing I play on guitar that impresses people every time, it's a walking bass line. People love hearing walking bass. The sophistication of the sound, the smoothness, the movement. I think there's also an element of surprise too, because people aren't expecting to hear a walking bass line played on a guitar. Plus, there is the addition of the chords that can be played when walking the bass. What you're about to see is an excerpt from a masterclass I taught to some of my online guitar students. Watch carefully as I walk you through, no pun intended, a very simple 5-step process for creating walking bass lines on guitar. Step 1 is all about choosing a chord progression to apply your walking bass. Step 2 is extracting the root notes from the chords of this progression. Step 3 is where the magic starts to happen. Here you will add chromatic tones around the root notes of your progression to create the walking bass component. Step 4 involves adding chords to your walking bass line. And step 5 is the finishing touch of syncopating the chords of the progression. The result is a sophisticated, smooth chord progression that sounds like there is a whole rhythm section coming out of your guitar. It's very cool. At the end of this video, I have a very special resource for you that will show you how to go even deeper into creating walking bass lines on your guitar. But first, let me show you the easiest and quickest way to do this. Walking bass. Walking bass. I love walking bass. And it's even better on a guitar because we got the chords as well. So walking bass brings movement, momentum, development to your arrangements. And there's many ways, or several ways, to create a walking bass line. Primarily we've got the chromatic approach, we have a scale-like approach, and we have arpeggiated approach, and quite often mixtures of those. Now I'm going to focus on the chromatic approach here. Because it's the easiest one to get up and going, and it sounds really good. So to demonstrate how to build a walking bass line using the chromatic approach, we've got a chord progression here, which is just a 2-5-1 basically, A minor, D7, G major to the 6th chord, and then 2 to a 5, and to a 1 in the key of G. So first step, we extract the root notes from the chord. So I've got the A, D, G, E, then A, D, and G. So we've got the root notes, okay? Very simple, just take out the root notes, done. Now, the chromatic approach is all about approaching the root notes from a half step above or below the root note that you're targeting, okay? 1 fret above or 1 fret below. So I've done that here, circled are the root notes, and then on beats 2 and 4 are the approach tones, either a half step above or below. Now, here we're starting on the root of A. The 11th fret has nothing to do with the A chord. Even though A chord is happening on the 2nd beat there, A minor, it's all about the D chord. It's approaching the root of D. So it's a walking bass. So what do you do when you're walking? You're looking ahead. You're not looking at exactly where you are in the moment, you're looking ahead and where you're going to. So a walking bass is that. We've got to look ahead and develop that walking momentum. So this 11th fret is all about approaching the D of the D7 chord. Then I'm going to go a half step below to approach G in the next bar. Half step above E to approach then E. Then a half step above A, half step below D, and a half step above G. Okay? Creates a really cool walking bass line that's really quite simple. If you know where the root notes are, we just approach it a half step above or below. So let me just play that a little more fluently for you. pretty straight, but that's the effect there. Now, whether you go a half step above or a half step below doesn't really matter. They'll all work. You might find one suits better in one occasion versus another, depending on what you're going to do after and around that, but ideally it doesn't really matter whether you go a half step above or below, just as long as you do. Okay, so next, because we are on a guitar here and not a bass, we can add the chords. So next step, I just add them in a very straight way on the beat. So we get this. Okay, and finally we can add a little syncopation to it, a little bit of feel, by breaking up the bass line with the chords. So something like this. Okay, so that's creating a walking bass line using the chromatic approach. Let's bring it back to Danny Boy for a moment. Last time we'll do Danny Boy here, we're going to move on to some other tunes, but I do want to show you one more excerpt of an arrangement, or what could be an arrangement of this tune. And this time we'll do the chord fragmented approach, rubato in the A section. It could be to time, but I think if we have a rubato approach in the A section and we kick it into tempo in the B section with a walking bass, you're going to get maximum impact there. Okay, so let's see how that would sound. Walking bass. Okay, so sounds very cool. Thank you. I can see some claps there. Sounds very cool when you add melody in with the walking bass. So this is giving you ideas of why you want to look at different ways to approach things, because it gives you more scope to draw from, more to grab from than simply just I'll put chords and melody together, or I'll just play some chords behind this guy soloing. What if you could put in a walking bass line? It's really going to lift someone's improvisation when you do that. So it's very cool. And it doesn't necessarily just have to be jazz that you're playing. So summarizing, walking bass, extract the root note from the chord, approach the root note from a half step above or below. So chromatic approach here. Always looking ahead. Just think you're walking, you're looking ahead. What's coming up? You've got to be ahead of where you currently are in the progression and the harmony. And then we add the chords and we syncopate the chords. Okay, so let me summarize what you just watched there. I'll do this with a different example so we can just reinforce the process of creating the walking bass. So I will do this with a 2-5-1-6 chord progression in the key of F. So that's going to give me a G minor chord, a C9 chord, an F major 7, and a D7 sharp 9. I'm just extending on some of these chords, but basically it's G minor, C dominant, F major, D dominant. Okay, now that's my chord progression, so let me grab the root notes of each of those chords. I've got G to C to F and to D. So that's step 2. Step 1 was deciding on the chord progression. Got the root notes. Now we simply take those root notes and we apply the chromatic tones above or below, either one is fine, the root of the next chord. So remember, as I said in the video itself, in the lesson, it's all about walking bass. So you're walking. What do you do when you walk? You're looking ahead. So This is my G. Now I'm looking ahead to the next chord, which is C. So I approach the root of the C a half step above. It could have been a half step below. I just chose a half step above. So G, half step above C, into C, half step above F, into F, and I'll go half step below D, into D. And then I'll go a half step above G to return to the 2 chord, G minor, or the root of G there. So above to C, half step above to F, half step below to D, and half step above to G. So if I play that bass line like so. Okay, I returned to the 2, 5 and finished on the 1 there. Okay, so the next step to the process here, step 4, is add chords. So the G minor to the C dominant, to the F major, to the D dominant, back to the G minor, to the C dominant, and finishing on F. Okay, so that's step 4, and step 5 makes it sound more musical because we add the syncopation of having some of these chord hits in between the bass notes on the offbeats. So something like this. Okay, and that's it. There's your walking bass. It's really, really simple, but it sounds really, really cool. If you like the walking bass approach I was teaching in this video, you'll love this free ebook I've created for you in my Jazz Concepts for Acoustic Guitar series, simply titled Walking Bass Lines. In this ebook, you will learn the 3 strategies for creating walking bass lines on your guitar. They involve the chromatic approach you've just learned here in this lesson, plus the arpeggio and scale approaches to walking bass. Each approach has a simple 5-step process, just like the one you've witnessed, to help you create more varied walking bass lines on guitar. All examples in the ebook have been broken down into the finest of detail, so you can not only play them, but understand what is going on, leading you to be able to create your own walking bass lines. So click the link below this video in the description and download your free copy of Walking Bass Lines for Guitar. Let me know in the comments section what acoustic guitar topics you would like to see covered in future videos. I read every comment and I would love to hear what you have to say. If you like this video, hit that like button and subscribe to the channel. And also don't forget to hit the notification bell button so YouTube can tell you when I release a new video. This is Simon Candy from AcousticGuitarLessonsOnline.net. Thanks for watching this video. I really appreciate your time and I look forward to seeing you in the next video.